I'm not trying to be super hateful in my videos. I usually try to like steer away from being super petty, but like I can't help it sometimes. Like I'm sorry. If someone wants to make a reaction video about me, go ahead and do it, but you won't because what is there to say?
Okay, let's do this. So, today I'm going to be talking about the dysphoria debate and whether or not you need dysphoria to be trans. And I'm going to be focusing a lot on this guy's content, Kalvin Garrah, this handsome man right here. First, I should probably introduce myself though. Hold on. My name's Maxine. I am a 24-year-old trans woman, and I've been on HRT for 6 months now. No, 5 months. And I do experience dysphoria. I've experienced a shit ton of dysphoria over the course of my life. So we're gonna be doing this. Alright, so Kalvin Garrah is a trans dude YouTuber. I heard about him because one of my students told me about him after they found out that I was trans, and then I became a pretty big fan. I've seen most of his videos, not all of them. This is my favorite video of his, proving that Chuck E. Cheese reuses pizza. It's like some Five Nights at Freddy's type shit. They just go there and like investigate whether or not they reuse leftover pizza. It's goofy. I don't know. But what he's most well known for is talking about trans issues and making fun of trans trenders. Like, see his most popular video, 1.7 million views. It's just him making fun of this person, and he's probably the biggest trans med YouTuber other than Blair White. So there's basically three different ideologies regarding trans people right now. First one's transphobic. This is what most people are right now. Either they just straight up hate trans people, or they think they're all like degenerate freaks or something, delusional fucks. That's most people. And then there's trans med slash true scum. These people believe that you need dysphoria to be trans. If you don't have dysphoria, you're not trans, according to these people. And then there's too cute, which is just not trans med. These people just, as long as you identify as a gender other than the one you were assigned at birth, then you're trans.
We're gonna be finding out if I'm transphobic today. Yes, Kalvin Garrah. You know, there's a lot of people that think I'm a transphobe, despite the fact that I'm transgender myself. As a transgender people, I am not fucking transphobic. The point of this video is that you cannot be transphobic if you're transgender.
So Calvin said some real dumb shit right there. Just because you're transgender doesn't mean you can't be transphobic. Obviously. Like, black people can be racist, gay people can be homophobic, and trans people can be transphobic. Okay, next clip. So here, Calvin is explaining why he can say tranny.
Regardless of my feelings on slurs as a whole, I believe that all slurs should be reclaimed by those that the slurs are used against.
So I agree with that. I think Calvin can say tranny because he's like, trans men can say tranny and reclaim that word. And I believe that reclaiming slurs is an ultimate good. And we can see this throughout history. For example, the word Quaker used to be a slur, but now it's been reclaimed, and now it just means somebody that's a Quaker. But let's hear where Calvin goes with this.
Really believe in the regimen that by using a slur, you take away the power of the word. Look, is it gonna hurt if you're a gay guy and some asshole just like screams at you and starts calling you a faggot?
Alright, so for those of you who don't know, faggot is a slur used against gay men and trans women. And Calvin is neither of those things. So why is he using it in this video?
Yeah, it's gonna hurt, alright? It's gonna hurt if somebody calls me a tranny and like goes on a transphobic rant about how I'm a tranny. But at the end of the day, if you use, let's say, the word faggot for gay guys, if a group of gay guys wants to call each other faggots or refer
Dude, he just keeps saying it. Like, this would be no different than if he just started saying the N-word. He can't reclaim that slur because it doesn't apply to him. Like, Calvin, this really hurts your argument when you just start saying slurs that you can't reclaim. your argument just becomes, I can say slurs because I can. Here's Calvin clarifying his take on slurs.
Opinion on the term queer as a slur. I think I'm gonna say any LGBT slur that I want, okay? The only
Okay, but why?
slur that I won't say is the N-word. I won't say the N-word. But
So why won't you say the N-word, but you'll say the F slur? There's no difference. Just because you're LGBT doesn't mean you can say any of the LGBT slurs if they don't apply to you. And like, you can say the slurs, but if they don't apply to you, that's not the same thing as reclaiming the slurs.
if I need to reference the word, I'm not gonna censor myself. If someone's like, oh, what's that word that starts with an F that describes gay guys? I'm like, oh, the slur faggot. Like, I'm not gonna call someone that. Like, I'm not gonna be doing it in a mean
But
way.
you'll say it.
But I'm all for reclaiming slurs because
It's not reclaiming. When you say faggot, you're not reclaiming it. You're just saying it. And it would be no different than if you were to just start saying the N-word. You wouldn't be reclaiming it. You would just be saying it. Let's hear Calvin outline his beliefs.
basically, I believe that you have to have dysphoria to be trans. And I also believe that you cannot just say you have dysphoria and it magically makes it true.
That's kind of weird, because if you can't say you have dysphoria, how are you supposed to communicate that you have dysphoria to someone? Like, it doesn't make sense.
You need dysphoria to be trans, or you cannot be trans without dysphoria. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you exactly why you cannot be transgender if you don't experience gender dysphoria. I think that's the most important argument here, that you need dysphoria to be trans.
Yeah, so that's Calvin's whole thing. He just wants to spread the belief that you need dysphoria to be trans. Okay, so let's hear Calvin talk about non-binary people in this video.
For those of you who don't seem to get it, non-binary is trans. If you're non-binary, you're trans, because if you're identifying as non-binary, you're identifying as a gender that isn't the one you were assigned at birth, and that's the literal definition of trans.
Yeah, that's the literal definition of trans. This is the definition of transgender. Denoting or relating to a person whose sense of personal identity and gender does not correspond with their birth sex. Do we notice anything about this definition? The word dysphoria is nowhere here. It's almost like dysphoria isn't what makes a person trans. What makes a person trans is identifying as a gender other than the one you were assigned at birth. Crazy. It's also worth noting that Calvin never cites any sources in any of his videos saying that you need dysphoria to be trans. All he does is he just says it over and over again. He just repeats this phrase over and over again. Like, we scroll down, no sources. He says people agree with him, but just because some people agree with you doesn't mean you're right.
Oh man, do I have a story for y'all. So, the other day I had a meetup with Blair White. She was having a meetup, and then she messaged me and said, do you want to come? Do you want to, like, be part of the meetup? Have some of your fans come? I said, sure. This trans woman came to the meetup. She was really nice, really respectful, very, obviously articulate, and basically came up to me, and she said, I disagree with you. I said, well, what do you disagree with me on? I thought, well, I'm about to have a fucking debate here in Tyson Corner Mall. And she proceeded to say, I don't think you need dysphoria to be trans. And I was like, okay, why do you think that? She was like, I don't have dysphoria. And I said, okay, why did you transition? She goes, I transitioned for affirmative action. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And she goes, well, I realized that it would be easier for me to get a job in the category that I want, and I would be making more money as a trans woman than as a straight white man. And I was like, well, are you happy? And she said, I don't remember, this is along the lines of what she said, not really. At the end of the night, I know that I am a straight man, or something like that, but it's worth it for the lifestyle. It was crazy to me. I was like, that's very interesting. So I'm not gonna say too much on it. I have my opinion. I think that, like, if you're not abusing trans resources, you're kind of abusing being trans for that. But at the same time, I mean, if you're gonna sacrifice your personal happiness, I don't know. It's kind of wild. That was one of the most wild things I ever heard in my whole life. But again, she was really nice. Like, if she's watching this, I don't want to like insult her or anything, because I did enjoy talking to her. But I was just like, whoa.
Okay, so we're getting a secondhand account of that story, but what basically happened is that Calvin met and talked to a non-dysphoric trans woman face to face. And I'm not sure how he like compromises this experience in his head with the belief that you need dysphoria to be trans. Like, this person is trans and never experienced dysphoria. Like, this dysphoria was not the reason for her transition, and transitioning did not give her dysphoria. So what is he thinking here? And like, you can't say she's not trans because she lives her life as a woman. So we've basically proven Calvin wrong here using his own videos. Like, we've got this story of him meeting a non-dysphoric trans person in real life, and then we've got this definition of transgender that never mentions dysphoria, but we're gonna keep going.
I guess I do care about the trans med community, and I care about the trans med community in general because I think it's a good thing to like spread awareness about the medical aspect of being trans and how it's not some fantasy world where gender is a social construct and we all get to choose our gender. Like, it's just we're born this way, and I think that's important to spread.
So that was Calvin not understanding what a social construct is. And for the record, if we go to the World Health Organization, the definition of gender refers to the socially constructed characteristics of men and women, such as whatever. So gender is literally, by definition, a social construct. But in case there's any confusion, we're gonna go over this. So here's 3 examples of social constructs. We got race, sex, and gender, all social constructs. Let's start with race. Race refers to skin color and your parents' race. Now, when we say that race is a social construct, it doesn't mean that, oh, everybody's skin color is actually the same and it's just an illusion that people look different. No, people have different color skin, but categorizing people based off of that skin color, that's the social construct. We do not need to do this. Race doesn't need to exist. And it could refer to anything else. We could have races based off of foot size, or hair type, or eye color, or fucking whatever. It doesn't matter. Now, sex refers to these 5 things: genitals, gonads, hormones, chromosomes, and secondary sex characteristics. All of these are objective things about a person. Like, you can't choose any of these things. But grouping them all together and assigning them as sex, that's the social construct. Most people have all 5 of these as either female or male, but there are people that have all different types of combinations of these. Some people have like both genitals, like whatever, and we group them all together as intersex. But if we wanted, we could have a million different sexes. Like, this could be a sex, this could be a sex, this could be a sex, that could be a sex. Like, it could go on forever. But we only do 2 because that's what most people are. Like, over probably 90% of people, I think, over 90% of people have all of these lining up as male, or all of them lining up as female. Now, gender refers to shit that goes on in our brains. And there are differences in the brains between men and women. But like sex, there are people that don't completely fit into either of those categories, and that's where the non-binary identities come from. I put other brain shit here because there's a lot about brains that we don't understand. And Calvin likes to say that one day we'll have brain scans and we'll be able to tell what gender a person is. But even when we get brain scans, humans still have to program those machines. And we could choose to program those machines to categorize between as many genders as we wanted. Like, asking how many genders there are is like asking how many races there are. There could be any number. It doesn't matter. It changes based on the society. It changes over time. We could fucking do whatever. So to clarify, all of these things are objective facts about a person. Gender being a social construct doesn't mean that you choose your gender. You can't control this stuff about your brain. The difference between gender and these other social constructs is that the stuff that determines your gender is invisible to everybody else. Like, these characteristics are all observable, but this is all happening inside people's brains. That is why we have to rely on self-identification to determine people's gender. Alright, let's just focus on sex and gender for a bit. One of the things that determines your gender is your subconscious sex. That's because sex and gender are interlinked. Okay, so I'm gonna use circles as like a visual representation. We can think of sex as the outer layer and gender as the inner layer. Like, we've all seen Shrek, right? Ogres are like onions because they have layers. Well, people have layers too. And I'm using blue to represent male, pink to represent female, and a purplish color to represent intersex and non-binary. Now, as I stated before, we could split intersex into as many different sexes as we wanted, and same with non-binary, but I'm just going to use these three for simplicity's sake. So for most people, their sex and their gender line up, and they're a cis male or a cis female. Cis just means not trans, by the way. For binary trans people, they're born as a sex, but then their gender develops as the opposite. And these things conflict. See, so this would be Kalvin Garrah right here. He's assigned female at birth, but he's actually male. So he changed a lot of his sex characteristics to better match him, who he is on the inside. I would be the opposite. I was assigned male at birth, but then my gender developed female. So this is me, and these conflicts give me a lot of dysphoria. So right now I'm changing my hormones to better match who I am on the inside. And this conflict between your sex and your gender often causes dysphoria. That's where dysphoria comes from. And then there's non-binary people. These people may or may not experience dysphoria and undergo some kind of transition. These categories are by no means absolute. There's all kinds of people, but this is the basics. Okay, there's definitely more to say about Kalvin and this topic in general, but I'm kind of bored of making this video, so I'm just going to end it here. I might do a follow-up in the future. I want to conclude by saying no, you do not need dysphoria to be trans. Dysphoria is a symptom of being trans, but it is not a necessary component. Thank you for watching. If you want to give me money, that would be awesome. Or if you want to follow me on social media, there's links to all that shit down below. And Kalvin, if you're watching this, hit me up. We should talk. Alright, I'm out. I'll see you guys later.